Good afternoon, everyone. The order today, I think, will not jump around, hopefully. I think it will be exactly the order that you see outside. We have 8 bills. The first one is Senate Bill 278.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair. It's a pleasure to be here to present Senate Bill 278. Each year, before I was elected to office, I was for many years on the Executive Council of the State Bar Association's Business Law Section. And since being elected, each year the Business Law Section has brought me several pieces of legislation. This year's no exception. I have 2 bills. This is one of the 2. Senate Bill 278 will improve Maryland's business climate by introducing expedited processing services for critical business filings at the State Department of Assessments and Taxation. Currently, businesses frequently experience delays in completing essential filings such as articles of incorporation, amendments, and mergers. In situations of the utmost importance to businesses, these filings simply must be completed before the end of a particular business day. This is especially the case in situations involving multi-state transactions, in which the timing of the various filings is vital for the transaction in question to be effective. So the failure of SDAT to complete a filing in Maryland can significantly impact these business transactions. By allowing SDAT to offer expedited service at a much higher fee, this bill will create an option for businesses that need immediate turnaround times without affecting the standard processing queue. The proposed fees are very high, reflecting the vital importance of completing such filings on time. So this bill, as written, provides for 2 layers of expedited filings, but as you're going to hear from my witness momentarily, Trey Hilberg, the decision's been made to eliminate the 30-minute filing because SDAT doesn't feel they can do that at this time. So the bill will be limited to just a special 1-hour filing for a $1,000 fee. These fees will ensure the cost of the services are fully covered without burdening the state budget. The bill is more than just about efficiency. It's about economic competitiveness. Maryland should be a place where businesses want to locate and grow. Ensuring a fast, reliable processing option allows businesses to remain agile, make timely decisions, and contribute to Maryland's economy without unnecessary bureaucratic roadblocks. Entrepreneurs and companies seeking to expand need confidence that the state's administrative processes will not be obstructionist. By offering these expedited filing options, we will align Maryland with the best practices in other pro-business states, specifically including Delaware, which is our chief competitor in this region to business law, and create a system that supports businesses in real time. Now, Trey Hilberg is here from the Business Law Section. He's had conversations with SDAT. They've agreed on 3 changes to the bill, which I'm going to let him explain to you, and then I think we'll both take questions.
Great, thank you. Please proceed.
Yeah. Thank you, Senator West, for your support, and thank you to the committee for consideration of this bill. I also just quickly want to thank Director Yeager and the rest of the SDAT staff for their cooperation and support and partnership in sort of developing this bill. And just as Senator indicated, we've been in sort of continued discussions with SDAT, and we've settled on 3 amendments that we think will still serve the interests of this bill, which is improving the efficiency and predictability with which businesses can execute on these transactions, but allow SDAT the comfort that they can get this done and make this a real value add for Maryland businesses. And so those 3 steps are, first, requiring what's called a pre-clearance. So this is something that's commonly done in complex filings of this nature anyway, and it basically gives SDAT a preview of the filing before it sort of goes live on the transaction date. So the filing would be made in advance, SDAT would review, have any comments, which sort of tees up the filing to be ready to go and execute quickly on the transaction date. So the amendment will require that step to happen first. As the Senator already noted, we're going to remove the 30-minute option. The SSTAT team has been supportive and receptive to that being an aspirational goal, but they're not there yet, and they've suggested that they'd be willing to just continue discussions and maybe add that later as services improve. But for now, it's not realistic. And then the last piece is the effective date. So moving that effective date out, we're proposing January 1, 2028. SSTAT's testimony, I think, currently states July 1, but they've since communicated with us that they are comfortable with a January 1, 2028 effective date. And so again, just as the Senator mentioned, this will be a material improvement in the expedited services that SSTAT offers, which will make a significant difference to Maryland businesses that need to execute on these complex transactions. And it'll also reduce and remove an impediment to businesses' decisions about forming in Maryland. Because right now, this is a real pain point we're seeing that's weighing against forming in Maryland. So that'll be an improvement.
Thank you. Are there any questions, members of the committee? Yes, please, Senator Augustine.
If I have a business and I don't have the money, this will set up a situation where might get blocked or get bumped in that last hour because someone else who has more money is able to get their transaction done? Is that sort of what happens with this?
Yeah, I think it's a fair question. It's something we've talked about with SSTAT, and it's something that came up last year when we were considering a similar approach to this bill. And the way we have thought about it and the way SSTAT has sort of communicated with us on it is currently everyone's in the same line. And so we're not necessarily creating, we don't want a way where people can sidestep folks, but we think the pre-clearance helps with that. We're basically teeing it up so that this can happen in a separate line, and then everyone else that's filing in a more regular process can just continue with that process. And I think SSTAT's plans, which they can speak to a little further, is to establish staff that can serve both. And the idea being that, especially with the pre-clearance, this won't be a drag on their ability to serve the kind of the general filings, and it'll be sort of pre-planned.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you all very, very much.
Thank you.
I think that concludes the hearing. And so the next bill is Senator West, Senate Bill 163.
Thank you very much. Interestingly, after a couple of years of not being before this committee, this is my fourth bill this year, but I think it's my last. It's a pleasure to be here to present Senate Bill 163. The purpose of this seemingly complicated but actually quite simple bill is merely to clarify Maryland tax law regarding the treatment of foreign earned income that is presumably taxed in the foreign country where it is earned and is already excluded from federal taxation under Section 911 of the Internal Revenue Code. Specifically, Senate Bill 163 clarifies that this foreign earned income will not be taxed in Maryland either. The fiscal note clearly lays out the issue. I was tempted simply to read the fiscal note to you, but I'm going to summarize it more briefly than the fiscal note. The note notes that in its 2024 decision in Cosgrove versus Controller, the Appellate Court of Maryland explicitly noted that Maryland law is unclear as to whether Maryland income tax must be paid on foreign earned income. The court further noted that the General Assembly has previously understood that federal exclusions for foreign earned income also apply in Maryland. Now, in the Cosgrove case, the Maryland controller, halfway through the case, decided to accede to the taxpayer's position, and it paid him the refund he sought with interest. The fiscal note to this bill states, quote, "The Comptroller's Office has advised the Department of Legislative Services that the Comptroller's position is that the addition modification under Maryland law does not apply to foreign earned income within the meaning of the Internal Revenue Code Section 911, close quotes. Thus, this bill merely codifies the controller's current interpretation of existing law. So that's why the fiscal note shows this bill will have no fiscal impact on Maryland. So all this bill does is to resolve the ambiguity identified in the Cosgrove case directly and narrowly. It does not create a new exclusion. It does not expand eligibility. It does not reduce existing federal limitations. It simply aligns Maryland law with the federal definition of foreign earned income under Section 911 of the Internal Revenue Code and makes explicit that such income is not subject to the state add-back provision. For that reason, I hope this committee will favorably consider this bill. I don't believe there are any witnesses, so I'm prepared to accept questions. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, there is a panel. If you guys want to come up. Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, members of the committee, for the record, Corey McCray, 45th Legislative District, East and Northeast Baltimore City, and I come here before you today on Senate Bill 63. Senate Bill 63 is a bill that we've heard in previous years, Mr. Chair. And what Senate Bill 63 does is when we have long-term procurement contracts, from that standpoint as a state of Maryland, making sure that if there are some level of thresholds, law changes, and things of that nature, that the opportunity comes from a level of fairness to be able to take a look at that and possibly adjust some of the changes within that respective contract. Today I have here with me, Mr. Chair, Steve from the National Association of Security Guard Companies, Nick from Allied Universal, and John Pika from Pika and Associates to be able to help say why Senate Bill 63 should receive a favorable report.
Whoever would like to go first?
I would like us to proceed, Mr. Chairman.
However you want to do it.
Whoever want to go first.
John, I can go first.
Steve's going to go.
All right. Steve in virtual.
Thank you. Chair Guzon, Vice Chair Rosapep, and members of the committee, my name is Steve Amate, and I'm the Executive Director of the National Association of Security Companies, whose member companies employ over 6,000 licensed security officers in Maryland, including many on state contracts who are protecting and safeguarding employees, visitors, and others at state facilities. Experience and training are crucial elements to security officer performance, and for security companies to recruit and maintain an experienced and well-trained security force requires providing officers with sufficient and fair wages and benefits. In multi-year state procurement contracts, when a security contract is first entered into, it is impossible for a security company to know of future requirements that will increase compensation for its officers on the contract and thus the cost to perform the contract. Accordingly, in many states and in federal service contracts, if during the contract period a collective bargaining agreement is negotiated that results in increased compensation provided to officers on the contract, the contractor can obtain a price adjustment to the contract. Contract price adjustments are also made when new federal or state laws go into effect during the contract period that increase employee compensation costs. Conversely, if modifications to procurement contracts cannot be made to offset increased costs due to a CBA or statutory changes, companies are forced to try to minimize such increases and find ways to cut other contract-related costs to stay within the price of the contract. While this is understandable, it is not good for officers, the company, or the state. Maryland has a long history of supporting employees on wage and benefit issues, and the passage of SB 63 ensures that security officers on state procurement contracts receive such support. SB 63 also makes changes and add provisions to its original 2025 predecessor bill that will limit potential costs to the state by restricting the type of contracts that are eligible for modification, by requiring such contracts to be of a certain length and dollar threshold, and there is a requirement that any proposed modification must be approved by the Chief Procurement Officer. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Questions for the virtual witness? Oh, we've got him there. Okay. Whoever's next.
All right, my name is Leon Beresford. I am the Executive Vice President and Chief Operating Executive for Admiral Security Services, headquartered in Maryland and a family-owned company. I'm also on the Board of Directors for NASCO with Steve Amate, and on the North American Board of Directors for ASIS International, the largest security professional association. I appreciate the opportunity to offer support of Senate Bill 63. I think the framework has been resolved, and where we're focusing on requiring large multi-state contracts, specifically construction and security contracts that are 3 years or longer, more than $2 million, to include a clause providing equitable contract adjustment with statutory changes, required compensation, or as a result of collective bargaining. The bill further provides governance by making sure that such a modification is contingent upon the approval of the Chief Procurement Officer. So why does this matter to security? Well, in the security business, the majority of our cost is labor-related, either directly pay or health and welfare benefits associated with pay. And as a result, when we have a mid-performance adjustment driven by state or federal law or a CBA there, it really negatively impacts all parties involved. And the contractors are faced with either absorbing the unanticipated cost or entering into ad hoc renegotiations. That strains margins, invites service degradation, and can destabilize the workforce that secures state facilities, campuses, and assets. I can tell you personally from contracts that my organization has managed, in 5-year contracts, we found ourselves upside down for the last 2 years of those contracts, and that's just not something that we can support. SB 63 is not a blank check. It established a transparent, predefined mechanism for equitable adjustment limited to documented and statutory increases. This combination promotes continuity of operations, reduces disruptive vendor churn, and supports retention of trained, vetted security officers, outcomes that directly enhance public safety and service quality. Thank you.
Am I up, Mr. Chairman?
Okay, John. Good.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Nick.
Mr. Chair, good afternoon, members of the committee. My name is Nick Paris. I'm the Regional Vice President for Allied Universal Security Services. We are the largest security company in the entire world with a very big presence here in Maryland. I employ currently over 5,000 security officers in the tri-state area, not including D.C. The majority of those officers here servicing very big state facilities, including BWI Airport, Port of Baltimore, and some other universities, and very, very critical facilities. Although it's been very well established by my colleague here to my right and Steve Amate from the National Association on why we should do this, I want to really focus on what really happens. So I'm the guy that has to do the pricing for Allied Universal, and unfortunately, the union negotiations don't always align with a state contract date. So I have to look into that crystal ball, and I have to think about, okay, they need a living wage. Well, I can go back and look at the 10-year average and try to figure that out. But when things drop in like sick leave acts, when things drop in like now we have a collective bargaining agreement, things that I could never see coming, it puts a tremendous strain on Allied Universal, my colleagues, to try to operate these contracts. And had this gone to a lower bidder, or the effect on my minority business partners that I have, it's devastating. They have walked out on these contracts on the state. And we're not that company. All we are asking for is a fair review of costs that are incurred that could not have been anticipated, and bring the state to the table to pay for those increases that we did not anticipate. And I'm here to answer any questions. Thank you.
I can go next. Good afternoon, Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Alexandra Morgan. I'm the political coordinator with SEIU Local 32BJ. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today on behalf of our union in support of Senate Bill 63, which would require state construction and service contracts to include an equitable adjustment clause, allowing for cost adjustments when statutory labor standards or collective bargaining agreements raise the minimum required compensation for workers employed on the contracts. SEIU 32BJ represents 185,000 members across 11 states and Washington, D.C. with 4,500 members in Maryland. Our members provide essential services in public facilities, commercial and residential buildings, airports, and a variety of other locations. 32BJ supports this reform because we understand just how critically important it is to reducing worker turnover and promoting high-quality security, janitorial, and other services in state facilities. Service sectors are vulnerable to high worker turnover rates driven by low wages. High turnover can have profoundly negative impacts on facility safety. Less on-the-job experience may lead to more mistakes, accidents, or overlooked hazards. 32BJ has long worked to raise standards in the security and janitorial sectors, negotiating collective bargaining agreements that boost wage and benefit levels, improve working conditions, and stabilize the workforce. By reducing turnover, higher compensation standards result in a more experienced workforce that is better able to maintain high security standards at public facilities. Unfortunately, collective bargaining standards may be undermined if state contracts fail to account for union-negotiated increases. The proposed legislation is a common-sense reform to the state's procurement practices to address this issue. Safeguarding union standards is not only a good for facility safety, it also has a potential to save taxpayers money in the form of decreased reliance on Medicaid or other social services. Senate Bill 63 would make modest but necessary reforms to the state's procurement law that have the potential to deliver real benefits to workers, the public, and the state economy. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. John Pica on behalf of the National Association of Security Guard Companies and Allied Universal. This bill was in front of you last year, only a much different complexion. It's gone over several iterations. With each iteration, we've reduced the impact to the state and reduced the state's exposure. So originally it was for enforcement of collective bargaining rights in construction contracts and security services. We've eliminated the section on collective bargaining rights on construction services, construction contracts. So it only applies to contracts for construction when there's a legislative mandate and increased pay, and for security services when there's a legislative increase in mandated pay or collective bargaining increase. This bill protects businesses and security companies from unforeseen legislative mandated increase in pay or the enforcement of collective bargaining rights. It does need a couple amendments at the suggestion of Mr. Michler at the Department of Transportation. I think the Department of Transportation will have their own procurement officer, and it's not necessarily the chief procurement officer from DGS, so that needs to be changed. And I don't know that you need the chief procurement officer approving this. Maybe it just needs to be the procurement officer for that particular contract. Why security services? Quite frankly, you might find this a little startling, but there are more security guards in Maryland than there are police officers. They're protecting property and persons in Maryland, and they're doing so because there just aren't enough police officers to go around the state of Maryland. If the state were to employ every law enforcement official, it would bankrupt the state. So that's why security guards are used. That's why this bill is very important. We ask for a favorable report as amended. I'm happy to work with committee counsel and MDOT and GGS for these amendments.
Thank you. Questions for anyone on the panel? Senator Corbin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, everyone, and thank you to the sponsor for bringing the bill, and appreciate all the information. I had a question for the gentleman from Allied, and
Yes, sir.
wanted to really interested as far as, well, I guess two things. Is the state the largest, your largest customer, per se? Is that your largest?
No, it is not.
Right.
Combined, all state agencies that I have, it would be number 2 on the list.
Okay. So I'm assuming, and I don't want you to name them, but there's some sort of, I guess, private business is your largest customer.
One in particular, yes, sir.
Right. So how does it work on that end? When these changes happen legislatively, which impact to your business-to-business contract, do those contracts have a clause that allow to renegotiate?
They do.
Or they do?
They
Okay.
do. Specifically, it states that if during the term of the agreement, if collective bargaining or other issues come up that significantly impact the cost that we provided, that we can pass on that cost.
And is there, besides the legislature, is there something that prohibits that being in your contract ahead of time with the state already?
Yes, the state does not allow us to make any changes at all to the contract that's taken. or
But I'm saying in the initial onset of the contract, could you have that stipulation in the
They
contract?
didn't
up front?
accept that. We offered it. The
Okay.
state did not amend the contract.
And your
for it.
concern is if you don't accept it, then somebody else would come in on a lower
Well,
bid?
they told us right away, if you don't accept it as is, then we have to move to the next vendor.
Okay, no, I appreciate the information. Thank you.
Thank you.
A quick question, and maybe I missed this. How often does this happen?
I can
In
answer
your-
that question.
And also in your personal experiences, how often in
Yeah,
your
I
contract?
can only say that based on information we received last year from DGS and MDOT, as a result of the amendments, it's got to be $2 million or greater. It's got to be at least 3 years. I doubt there are 10 contracts this would apply to a year, probably less than 5. So there aren't many that this would apply to, but I don't know that that's a direct answer to your question. Mr. Paros could answer that question you had.
So I think I'm going to speak for both of us because we're pretty large companies. So it happens every contract cycle because we really don't know what the next move is for, say, SEIU. They might decide 3 years from now that they're going to organize X organization, and we're there. So this has always been a risk, but as you know, the state is becoming more unionized. There's been a lot of legislation coming out for workers' rights and benefits. It's starting to add up. A lot of people look at the value of these contracts and think we're flush in money. They are very, very thin margins. One little thing could throw us upside down. And if you're a small company or my minority business partner who gets 30% of most of the state contracts, that they just go out of business. They just leave. And they just can't handle it. So we're not trying to make money off of this. We're trying to just recover what's the equitable adjustment to keep going with the contract as is.
Mr. Chair, could I clarify my response? I meant that as to security contracts. It's very few. As to construction contracts, it may be more than that.
And my colleague may have more information from his company.
No, I would concur. Based on the 3 to 5 year term of these contracts, it's going to be some kind of adjustment that would come in that period of time. And then, as Nick has said here, we can't forecast, what the SEIU or other union is going to determine to organize in the future there. So it's a bit hard to predict for that reason.
Any, Senator Zucker?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I just have a quick question for anyone that would like to answer it, just so that way we can have it said here instead of when we're taking up potentially voting on the bill. So I saw MDOT mention that this can increase costs, and
Yeah.
I just wanted you guys to be able to address that and
I can, Well, there would be a certain level of increased costs. If you're looking for an equitable adjustment for a legislative mandate and compensation, it's going to cost more. But I want to draw your attention to what MDOT said in their letter. I'm going to read it to you. MDOT would prefer that procurement officers retain their authority to decide whether to approve modifications and change orders in order to prevent contractors from deliberately underestimating their costs during the bidding process. I don't know of a person who's going to underestimate their bid. In fact, if they don't have to worry about unforeseen costs, it may save the state money, and they actually wouldn't have to worry about what the legislature might do or whether a union might enforce their collective bargaining rights. That's why we made it 3 years or greater. If it's less than 3 years, you should know what's happening. And we made it $2 million to reduce the impact to the state. I hope that answers your question, Senator.
Okay. Thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Senator.
Mr. Chairman.
Appreciate your time. Senator, good to see you. Senator?
Yes, sir. 111, SB 111. I mean 112, excuse me. Come again?
Good afternoon, Chair Gazone, Vice Chair Rosapep, and members of the Senate Budget and Taxation Committee. For the record, I'm John Martin, Director of the Maryland Lottery and Gaming Control Agency. With me is Jennifer Beskid, Director of Legislation and Policy. Thank you for allowing us here to be here today to discuss Senate Bill 112. You have our written testimony. We would like to use this opportunity to highlight the relevance of this bill. Maryland law assumes all gambling is illegal unless specified by statute. Today, Maryland has 26 online entities that operate legally, 12 online mobile sports wagering licensees, and 14 registered online fantasy competition operators. Illegal online games are growing exponentially in Maryland because of ambiguity and loopholes in existing statute. This legislation is intended to eliminate ambiguity and close any loopholes. Currently, the agency sends cease and desist letters and refers illegal operators to the appropriate law enforcement entities. Clarifying the language in statute to define illegal games as interactive games expressly covers online gaming activities. Prohibiting the operation of interactive games in Maryland, and including criminal penalties, provides an opportunity for the agency to collaborate with law enforcement partners. Illegal operators do not register their businesses in Maryland. Therefore, taxes are not collected, state revenues are lost, and consumer protections are ignored. Our colleagues in other states have engaged in actions to stop illegal operators. In 2025, 6 states, led by California, New York, and New Jersey, all passed legislation to ban online gaming activities. Already this year, 9 jurisdictions, including Florida, Indiana, and Tennessee, have joined us to introduce legislation aimed at illegal online gambling. Thank you for the opportunity to present this information in support of Senate Bill 112. With that, we ask for a favorable report and are available for any questions.
Questions? Yeah, Senator Zucker.
Thank you very much. So good to see you all. So is this, so are you concerned about, is this about prohibiting compliant operators or going after folks that, like, what's the status there? And then is regulations to this the way to solve this as well, or?
So thank you, Senator Zucker, for that question. Jennifer Beskid with the Maryland Lottery and Gaming Control Agency. As I understand your question, you're asking if we are looking to go after legal operators. Is that, did I understand that correctly?
Or those that are compliant?
So the agency regulates gaming, and we have 12 mobile sports wagering entities, licensees that are compliant. We have 14 fantasy sports operators that are also certified in the state. Anyone outside of those 26 is operating outside of regulation. And so the bill seeks to define what's happening is, and I'll give you an example with the sweepstakes games. What's happening is there are games that are being offered that look like casino playing. You can play them without any investment of currency whatsoever. When there is an investment in that virtual currency, that it converts to a real currency that you are able to cash out or otherwise play in any type of game that will generate currency. If it is not one of those 26 entities that we've licensed or certified, it's illegal in Maryland.
If I may just add to that, Senator, we are actively in pursuit of dozens of these illegal operators through our efforts in coordination with the Office of the Attorney General and our own devices to send cease and desist letters. We've got about a 33% success rate in people acknowledging that and leaving the state of Maryland, and on a national basis, that's pretty good. That's what we see in other jurisdictions, but there are significantly more bad actors out there that are in the marketplace. So to your specific question, yes, we are intending to go after the people who should not be operating illegally in the state.
Thank you. And Director Martin, great to see you. Dr. Beskid, always good to see you. For folks that feel like they fall under a different framework and want to be regulated, but they are not in that compliance space, have you guys entertained, or is there any type of thought about what direction the agency would go, maybe pulling them under the umbrella of the agency and possible for some level of revenue generation?
Senator McCray, good to see you, and thanks for the question. This is a pretty direct response, and I don't mean it to sound insolent in any way, shape, or form, but if they want to be able to offer services in Maryland, they can apply for licensure through the agency and the Maryland Lottery and Gaming Control Commission. And they would have to meet the criteria that's established in the state government article.
Okay, because I know you, no offense taken.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for bringing the bill here this year. If I recall, I had this bill last year. And I guess my question to Jen, as I recall, I think right after, it was either during the bill right after, Lottery sent out a bunch of, and it's kind of a follow-up to Senator Zucker's question where you indicated there's 26 legal entities, but Lottery sent out a bunch of cease and desist orders out, if I recall correctly. Did any of those orders go to the 26 regulated entities or casinos or any of those that we currently have? None of those letters went to those entities, did they?
Correct. Thank you,
Right.
Senator Corman. No, they didn't go to the
So
regulated.
they only went to entities that are non-regulated and ones that have not applied to lottery and thus are not in compliance. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Just real quick on that, how many did you send out?
Since the inception of the program, Chair, we have sent out 75 cease and desist letters. As I said, we've got about a 33% hit rate in success of people actually packing up and leaving the state.
Right. Senator.
I'm not really familiar with this business, so give me a sense of who these folks are. I mean, are they little guys? Are they big guys? Are they Americans? Are they foreigners? Give me a picture of who these folks are.
Senator Rosepep, thank you for the question. I'm in the same boat that you are. I came to lottery last year. I didn't understand any of this. When I do a search in the app on my phone, and this is probably the best way to give you a sense of this, when I do a search in the app on my phone, I get hundreds of hits on sweepstakes operators who are offering games, lottery-style game, or I'm sorry, they are doing lottery-style games, but casino-style games, table games, all of that, that have no affiliation with Maryland. Many of them are outside, and I will tell you from years ago when I first started exploring social media, it used to be that if you tried to play in a sweepstakes or a casino-style game, a slot machine, that you actually would get back a flag or a notification about where the operator of that game was based. So I could have put in we'll go with the 2000s. In the early 2000s, when I started to look at social media, if I put in for any type of slot machine game, it would actually come back, and I would be prohibited from playing in any U.S. game. That recognition does not exist anymore. Now it's just a matter of, as I said, you can go into an app, put in slots as what you want to search for in your app, and you will get hundreds of different types of gaming operators, different opportunities to play. Within the response, you'll also have hundreds of games that you can play within that operator. And so trying to determine where they are, we know they're offshore, we know that they're outside of the United States, but there are some that are also operating within the U.S. would be the answer, that they're everywhere.
And if I may, Vice Chair, these are not people who operate out of their basements. These are sophisticated multinational organizations who are doing this type of activity in every state of the country.
That really answers my question. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is Ryan Eller. I'm the Executive Vice President and General Manager for Live Casino and Hotel here in Maryland. Live Casino and Hotel employs about 2,700 team members and provides another 5,100 indirect jobs here in the state of Maryland. We pay approximately $350 million in taxes directly to the state of Maryland each year and have operated in this state since 2012. In that time, we've invested over $1.1 billion in capital improvements to create one of the most successful casino properties in the entire nation. We also are part of the wider Cordish Gaming Group, which is the only national casino operator headquartered right here in the state of Maryland. I'm here to urge a favorable report on Senate Bill 112. We have appreciated the opportunity to work and support the Lottery and Gaming Control Agency on this important legislation. The bill moves in the right direction by going after certain types of illegal gaming in the state of Maryland In the past, some have advocated the passage of iGaming legislation as a means to regulate that illegal market. Data consistently shows that legalizing online gambling does not reduce the illegal market, it tends to grow it. However, we believe that bills like Senate Bill 112, as well as Senator Quarterman's sweepstakes legislation from 2025, which the Senate passed unanimously last year, are better approaches to go after the illegal gaming market. We would also support any further legislation that may go a step further by seeking enforcement measures on those individuals or enterprises involved in marketing or facilitating iGaming transactions in our state. Again, Senate Bill 112 is a very positive step in the right direction, and we urge a favorable report on the bill. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If you could just help me understand when we talk about the illegal gaming, and I understand if I was going to grab my phone and I was going to play poker or, something like that. But let's say, at my mother-in-law's house and she's playing Candy Crush and she gets one of her friends sends her something because she ran out of things. Is that illegal gambling under the pretense of this?
I can clarify the intent from our perspective as an operator, and I'll defer to the regulators for their interpretation. However, those types of games is not the intent in this case. Very specifically, our challenges are in the realm of illegal online gaming. Right? These are companies that spoof our brand, Live Casino. You could actually think you are going to a live casino website and operating in a legal sphere because there are no ramifications, there are no consequences, and there is no structure to enforce it. And so they go, they play, right? And then ultimately, even were they to comply with the cease and desist orders and letters that have been sent out, then they simply change their domain, they re-enter the market, and we continue to see that they operate illegally, in the state of Maryland. So there are measures that need to be taken to address that. It is a true risk, right? And it is, frankly, adversarial to the success of, our business here in the state of Maryland, which, we're frankly very protective of, and we see Maryland as a partner. The amount of revenue we've generated is something that we would like to protect. This is a measure to do so.
And Senator, if I may just add to that from the regulator's perspective, these are clearly games where money's exchanged or asked for, and they simulate sports wagering, casino games, the Candy Crushes of the world, the solitaires, the things that are fairly innocuous, as long as they're not accepting money in that transaction or paying money in terms of any wins to the players. That's really not the focus here.
So if they run out of lives or whatever it is,
right?
And it pops up and it says, "Hey, if you pay $2, then you can get another thing." So this legislation would then make Candy Crush, if they put $2 in, illegal in Maryland?
We would look at any games that cross that threshold where there's cash considerations, either asking of the player or paying cash.
Thank you.
Do you have a question, Senator? No. Any other questions for this panel? Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
We have 3 people online signed up unfavorably. Dwight Ramadan. You can begin.
Good afternoon, Chairman Gazzone and members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today on player protection at BGW. My name is Dwight Ramadan. I am the head of Responsible Social Gameplay, or RSG, at BGW. I bring more than a decade of experience in player protection, including as an accreditor with the Responsible Gambling Council, a globally recognized nonprofit renowned for developing evidence-based best practice standards. I joined BGW in 2022 to bring this experience to social plus games and further strengthen the company's existing program. Our mission is simple: to ensure our games are played for fun and entertainment. We do this in 3 ways: prevent underage participation, identify and respond to potential risk, and give players tools and information to manage their gameplay. Protecting minors is non-negotiable. We believe Social Plus games should only be enjoyed by adults 21 plus and enforce that through multi-step age verification. Age checks occur at first purchase and are reinforced through additional know your customer checks in the player journey. If an account is ever found to be operated by someone under 21, purchases are returned, prizes voided, and the account closed. Players also have access to a range of self-service RSG tools, including purchase limits and account access restrictions. We actively promote the awareness and use of these tools through player communications. We monitor player behavior using alerts and a customer risk score developed in-house that was informed by markers from adjacent regulated gaming industries and adapted that to the Social Plus model. We have also introduced gameplay affordability to the US, which is a tool that helps identify activity that may fall outside a player's estimated spending power that is relevant to both RSG and financial crime prevention. These signals are supported by customer-facing staff trained to escalate possible concerns to our dedicated RSG team, mostly with social work backgrounds who engage players directly, assess risk, and guide the appropriate use of tools. Taken together, our program demonstrates that the claims suggesting a lack of consumer protections in Social Plus games do not reflect how responsible operators function today. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Sean Ostro?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Sean Ostro. I'm the director of the Social Gaming Leadership Alliance. We rise in opposition to this bill, which would ban and in fact criminalize the entire Social Plus industry, including law-abiding businesses that have been operating in Maryland since 2012. In our view, this legislation would be counterproductive to the policy objectives of strong consumer protection and revenue generation. Social Plus is a subset of the popular social games industry, which includes casual mobile games like Words with Friends, Candy Crush, and many other card, casino, puzzle, and bingo games that can be played for free but also offer purchase options that enhance gameplay. Social Plus takes the same concept of free-to-play social games but enhances it with the opportunity to win real prizes through well-established and widely utilized sweepstakes promotions that are governed by Maryland Commercial Law 13305 and the Maryland Online Data Privacy Act. Additionally, our industry is regulated at the federal level by the FTC, FCC, U.S. Postal Service, and DOJ Consumer Protection Division. Furthermore, SGLA companies have voluntarily established a regime of strong consumer protections, including mandatory age 21 plus, identity verification, geolocation, responsible social gaming tools, advertising standards, and many other trust and safety provisions that go far beyond what comparable social games currently offer. If the language in SB 112 is passed, the law-abiding operators will exit the state, but illegal operators will stay and prey on unsuspecting consumers, including the approximately 120,000 Maryland adults that currently enjoy Social Plus games. Social Plus operators that offer real consumer protections will be replaced by illegal offshore copycats that use exploitative marketing techniques to trick Maryland consumers, and far worse. The SGLA agrees this bad behavior must be stopped, but the way to do that is through regulation, not a ban that will only widen the playing field for illegal operators. Instead of a ban, we are proposing an amendment that will bring industry-wide regulation to Social Plus games and generate upwards of $20 million in annual revenue through a combination of sales tax on purchases and operator registration fees. We ask the committee to study this issue closely, but please do not rush to a judgment that will ban many popular, law-abiding companies from doing business in Maryland. We hope to continue this productive conversation. Thank you for your time, and I'd be happy to stand for questions.
Thank you. And Derek Brinkman.
Good morning, Chairman Gazon and members of the committee. I'm Derek Brinkman, the Executive Product Advisor at VGW, the largest developer and operator of Social Plus games in the world. I'm a member of our executive team, and I have over 20 years of experience in the Social Plus virtual reality and video gaming space. I previously founded and developed multiple companies and products enjoyed by players around the world. At its core, VGW is an interactive entertainment and video game company. We value our players deeply and have published core company values that include we do what's right and our players come first. There's never been a time like this in social gaming, and frankly, it's exciting. The near constant pace of innovation in gaming and entertainment overall has created a healthy online arms race of market competition that will not cease anytime soon and benefits players by giving them a range of new forms of fun, safe entertainment. By banning Social Plus games, Maryland would be setting the precedent that any future innovative games interested in entering the state could be blocked. Instead, Maryland can now build its recent momentum as an enterprising and forward-thinking state where innovators, entrepreneurs, and industry disruptors compete in the free market. That way, the residents of Maryland win with more entertainment options, and the state wins with more tax revenue opportunities. VGW already complies with all tax laws in the state of Maryland, but would welcome working with legislators on a codified regulatory framework for our industry that could also provide additional revenue opportunities for the state. VGW's casino-themed video games are nothing new. The first slots-focused free-to-play social casino video game was Slotomania, launched by Playtika in 2011. For casino game fans who don't want the experience of risking real money on gambling websites or land-based casinos, our games are ideal because they share the entertainment and mechanics of popular casino games without a player ever having to spend a dime. In fact, the vast majority of our players, most of whom are aged 35 to 54, never spend a penny and instead choose to play for free. For VGW, our player safety and security, game integrity, and player protection measures are the most important features we have developed to ensure long-term success and player retention. We did not have to be directed to do the right thing. We simply always have. And everyone from our executive team down through the rest of the company realized that this player-focused stance is one of the pillars of strength for our company. I thank you for your time and look forward to your questions.
Mr. Chairman, and I'm sorry, maybe I'm being a little dense here, but I'm not understanding exactly what you're saying. It sounds to me from your testimony that you are urging us to legalize a separate class of gaming. And if so, that's fine, but that's not what this bill does. This bill says that people who don't currently have a license, who aren't operating within the current structure that we have, shouldn't do so. And so I guess I'm a little confused because if you, and I see all these very nice reports here, you talking about how much money could be brought into the state, but that seems to me like a separate business and a separate bill, an issue, and that's fine, but like then have a bill that talks about these social plus games. I guess I'm a little confused because if you are upstanding actors in this area, then you would not be fearful of having this bill, which would ensure that those who are not complying with current law aren't, taking advantage of the current system. So can you help? Just, are you advocating for a separate class of licensure to accommodate your business, which is fine, but it seems to me is not exactly what this bill is meant to get at?
Is that question directed to me?
Anybody?
Sure, I can take a stab at that. So our current business is a social gaming video game business. The way that it works is that you play casino games as a video game. We give you some amount of free gold coins to be able to play those games. You play the games, and if you run out of gold coins, you have a decision. You can either come back the next day and get more free gold coins, or you can make a purchase. That's our core business. That is a video game business. It has nothing to do with gambling. So we're not a gambling business. We do have a marketing promotion that uses sweepstakes, like many companies across many industries in the United States. And as Sean mentioned, that's also kind of covered by Maryland law and regulated by Maryland law. What we think there's an opportunity for here, you're sending cease and desist orders to Social Plus operators, while Social Plus operators are just video game companies that are using a marketing promotion of sweepstakes. So there's clearly a disconnect in what your perception of this is. We're trying to close that disconnect by having a conversation about if you want a different regulatory framework to go around our business, which is a video game business that uses a sweepstakes promotion. We're open to have that conversation, and that could include some new taxation regime as well. Does that answer your question?
Sort of, except that I'm a little confused because if you are a video game company, I don't have any problem with that. But it seems to me, and again, my knowledge in this area is pretty thin, so I'll own that. But if you are then converting that to somebody getting real cash, that seems to me to be a different kind of operation than me playing a video game on my phone, right? So
Yeah,
the sweepstakes part seems to indicate that me as a player has an opportunity to get real money out of this, which it seems to me to also cross a line.
Sure, let me try to clarify that for you. So is McDonald's a restaurant company?
Sure.
Do you know the McDonald's Monopoly promotion? It's a very famous promotion that they run every year based on sweepstakes.
I don't.
Every single year, they run a sweepstakes-based promotion that's themed Monopoly. So there are opportunities when you buy a hamburger that you get a sweepstakes entry at the time that you buy that hamburger. If you win a prize with that sweepstakes entry, then McDonald's will pay you cash prizes potentially on that sweepstakes win. They are running a sweepstakes marketing promotion. That does not make McDonald's a gambling company. It means they're still a restaurant, and they are using a sweepstakes marketing promotion to help to promote their business. That's what we do. We're a video game company that the core thing that we sell is a gold coin that has no cash value, cannot be redeemed for prizes in any way. That is the social casino business model that's existed for almost 2 decades now. And what we've done is added a marketing promotion on top of that, which is sweepstakes, like many other brick and mortar or online businesses across this country.
Do you have a set? Can you tell me how many users? What's your comparison of users of the sweepstakes piece of your business and the gaming piece of your business?
Sure. I mean, every single person who comes in starts off with gold coins, and so that's the primary currency that they are playing with. And then there is some portion of those people who also participate in the sweepstakes promotion.
Is it a majority?
Is it the majority of people who take advantage of the sweepstakes promotion? Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. For Mr. Brigham, just following up on Senator Hedelman's questions there. Your comparison to McDonald's. So I see where you're trying to draw that correlation. That I guess the challenge I have with that, when I go into McDonald's, I buy the hamburger. I also don't play slots. So try to explain that one to me, because your sweepstakes part of it, I guess, is you're playing casino-style games, which in essence I'm getting money back, which I think is what we're hearing is the concern of you're pretty much having unregulated iGaming. So I'm trying to figure out and also I don't, respectfully, you guys are the only ones that are in favor. I don't see McDonald's here or Starbucks or any of these other entities that run those type of programs that you're trying to say that are the same, having any objection here. Can you explain that to me? Of if someone's giving you money, they're playing a casino game, slots, whatever it may be, you're giving them money back. How is that not unregulated iGaming? I don't understand how that's not it.
Sure, easy explanation. So the way that a sweepstakes works is that you get a free entry. It is something without any kind of consideration for the participant. You can get an unlimited number of sweepstakes entries from an operating sweepstakes through alternative methods of entry, or sometimes you get them along with a purchase. This is true for any sweepstakes. So you get free sweepstakes entries. Then a sweepstakes has a random number generator or a randomized drawing to determine winners. And then winners of the sweepstakes have the opportunity to win prizes. So this is what's happening in our business, is that people acquire sweepstakes entries either through login bonuses every day with no purchase, through either digital or postal alternative method of entry requests, where our players can just ask for additional sweepstakes entries, or potentially with purchases where you get sweepstakes entries along with the purchase of the gold coins. The randomized drawing, we show that as a slot game, but ultimately that is just a randomized drawing to determine if you are a winner on the sweepstakes entry that you are currently playing. And then if you're a winner based on the randomized drawing, then you're able to get a prize.
So basically the same thing. If I go to a casino, they comp me, I pull a slot machine, they randomize it, I win, I get money. It's the exact same thing, but
No,
you're
it's
just
not.
saying it a different way. But
It's actually not the same thing. This is a sweepstakes, and that's just a gift of dollars. We're not giving you dollars. A casino is giving you dollars, free play that is represented in dollars. We are giving you sweepstakes entries.
yeah, thank you.
Other questions? Okay, thank you very much. With that, we're going to move on to um, 213. Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, and Mr. Vice Chair and fellow committee members. I have a bill here that may have a familiar theme. We're going back to procurement. This bill may sound familiar for two reasons. Its predecessor was a crossover that we heard last year. That was House Bill 304. And of course, it's very similar in concept to a bill we heard a little bit earlier today, Senator McCrae's SB 63. I think this bill may be somewhat broader in scope in terms of the industries it applies to, as well as some of the transparency issues that it addresses. So the difference between last year's bill that we heard and this year's bill is last year that concept was certainly a good idea, but there were a lot of questions about the specifics of the bill. So the chair, in his infinite wisdom, recommended that we have an interim study, which was conducted by DLS. And they reviewed the prior bill and really made some excellent recommendations to clarify this bill. And you will see them incorporated, and I believe that DLS report should be incorporated into my testimony as an attachment. Before I talk about the four components of this bill, I want to define a few terms that you will hear today, used rather frequently. One is protest, a protestation of a decision by a procurement officer to approve or deny a bill. Contract claim, that is a cost claim relating to a claim for an equitable adjustment. Much of this bill focuses on that particular scenario. An equitable adjustment is an adjustment prescribed in the statute and contract to provide relief to the contractor for changes in price related to changes in state law. So what does the bill do? Four major components of the bill. It is intended to make state procurement more fair, more transparent by requiring a structured debriefing process should an offeror lose a bid. Now, there are parameters around that. An unsuccessful bidder may request a debriefing as to why they lost a bill. It's not automatic, only if the requester asks for this. Why is this helpful? It makes them better bidders in the future. Secondly, within that particular topic, a procurement officer must provide that meeting or explanation as soon as possible before the contract award is finally approved. It includes all relevant requested information unless it's reasonably determined that there's certain information that's confidential, proprietary, or privileged. And finally, the Office of State Procurement must establish certain guidelines for these debriefings. The second major component of the bill is that it requires that the contract contains clauses addressing changes to state law and the potential need to change the contract. This is probably the more controversial aspect of the bill, according to the letters of information that we received, as well as some language in the fiscal note. So what does that do? That says that contracts have to include language within them that addresses the need for an adjustable or an equitable adjustment
to compensate the contractor for increases in cost and time due to changes in state law, and the language is explicit that modifications to the contract caused by changes in law are the only cause for an equitable adjustment. So you might ask, well, give me an example. The Family Leave Medical Act had a contract been submitted prior to that going into law. That would be a reasonable request for a contract adjustment. What else? Last year, the 4.5% business-to-business IT tax, that could be another example of why a contractor might request, under this aspect of the bill, an equitable adjustment. The third aspect of this bill establishes a more clear protest process by separating it from contract claims. So upon receipt of a timely protest, it requires a procurement officer to review the protest. It would potentially seek legal advice from the AG's office. It provides for a provision of a written decision to grant relief, deny the protest, or seek more information to the unit's head for review. And the unit's head must then issue the decision within 60 days. If they don't, it's considered a denial. And finally, the third aspect of this bill clarifies this is the final action taken by the unit's procurement officers, and that any appeals, further appeals, would proceed to the appeals board. The final aspect of this bill establishes more clear, more direct contract claim procedures related to equitable adjustments. So it places a time limit of 60 days on contractors wishing to file a notice contract claim after the denial of an equitable adjustment or upon impasse with the procurement officer. It also places a 90-day limit to actually file the claim. Upon receipt of the claim, the procurement officer is required to review it, seek legal advice if appropriate, conduct negotiations with the contractor, resolve the claim by wholly or partly denying the claim or granting relief, and the unit's head must review the decision. This limits the state's liability for responding to claims to the last 60 days or 150 days if the claimant is granted an extension. And the contractor must certify the claim. So in summary, what does this bill do? It's more clear about the timing of the debrief. It offers greater predictability. In particular than last year's bill. I believe it makes the bidding process more competitive by actually inserting clarification, timelines, accountability, and transparency. But this bill also gives a lot of procurement officer flexibility against providing information that would be a competitive risk. So I mentioned that there was a bit of controversy. No opposition letters of information. The crux of the letters of information was an implication that contractors might bid low and then try to up the bid later because of this increased flexibility. I wouldn't subscribe to that theory because there's a really good process in place for negotiation, and the circumstances under which you can try to appeal a bid. Quite to the contrary, I think that the process we have now, you might get some padding of the bidding because of that uncertainty. So with that overview of what the bill does, the risks and the opportunities, I would like to pass it on to my very knowledgeable panel. I'm going to suggest that we proceed in this order. First, Mr. Deschel, then Mr. Murray, followed by Mr. Matthew, and wrapping up with Mr. Miller. Thank you.
Thank you. Please proceed.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. My name is Robert Fulton DeShiel. I've been a practicing attorney in the area of procurement for 53 years. I authored much of what became the Governor's Procurement Reform Act last year. I am a member of the Maryland Procurement Improvement Council. I'm going to focus in the brief time that I have just on two issues that were raised in the fiscal note, and those relate to the issue of the suggestion that a change order based upon an equitable adjustment does not allow the state the latitude with respect to negotiations as other change orders might. That is simply not true. This bill simply would allow a contractor to request an equitable change order and would authorize the state to grant that request, but the contractor would have to show and prove the same level of entitlement that it would with respect to any other change order, such as a differing site condition or unforeseen conditions or anything else, and the state would have every opportunity to negotiate with that claimant with respect to the impact of that change on the contractor's quantity, quality, or price, just like the state would on any other proposal. So it's not a blank check, if you will, that the state would have to sign no matter what. Secondly, on the area of debriefing, the fiscal note notes, the potential additional cost to the state, but I can tell you that there are significant benefits to be derived from this bill. One is in particular in the area of debriefing. I can tell you from my experience that many appeals are filed not solely for the purpose of gaining information that should otherwise be available. This bill will allow the procurement officer to provide that information. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Rory Murray here on behalf of the American Council of Engineering Companies Maryland chapter. I've been here for just under 53 years. It's always so impressive. ACC Maryland represents engineering and design firms ranging from small solo practices all the way up to Maryland's largest firms. Together, its members support more than 140,000 jobs and over $10 billion in annual wages across the state. For several years, we worked collaboratively with state agencies on procurement reforms focused on transparency, scoring clarity, proposal access, and more consistent debriefs. While progress has been made, many of these efforts have reached their limits under the current law. I would also like to focus in on the debrief piece. To put it simply, this bill would make debriefs more meaningful. Today, debrief quality varies widely, and in some cases, debriefs are not offered at all, or they're almost perfunctory in nature. They often lack actionable detail due to the current statutory limits of what can be discussed. In an industry where procurements are frequently decided by fractions of a point, the ability to discuss how proposals are scored, what earned points, what didn't, those would not only give the procurement officers a better understanding of what the bidder was trying to say in their bid, but it also give the bidders a better understanding of how they can improve for future procurements. It helps both sides. Likewise, often in proposals, there are sections that are required, but they're not scored. there's really no chance to discuss that in the process unless there's a debriefing where you can bring it up, and maybe both sides can then understand the rationale of, do we even need to put these in? So we don't place any blame on the state agencies. They're just operating within the limits, the bounds of the current law. But we are very much in support of this bill. We think it'll be better for everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. For the record, Matt Defoe here on behalf of the Associated Builders and Contractors in Maryland. Just a little bit over 85 years. ABC was actually founded in Baltimore, for the record. We believe this legislation significantly enhances the fairness and transparency of Maryland's state procurement system. I, too, will only focus on the limited time, and you have my written testimony. Our members are encouraged and support the provisions regarding contract claims, including the ability to recover certain defense costs. It will create a more equitable and predictable framework, which was mentioned for resolving disputes. Lastly, the provision for appeals to the Appellate Court of Maryland will provide a clear and accessible path for resolving complex legal issues related to procurement contracts. So with that, we request on behalf of our 1,500 members in the state, respectfully request a favorable report and thank this good senator for bringing this bill forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Mike Miller. I'm with Rifkin Wiener Livingston. And though Mr. DeShield looks younger than me, he's actually been practicing quite a bit longer than I have in this realm. So I would defer to his points on these. But what I will say is two things I want to focus on for you. One thing this bill does is it simplifies the contract claims process among all contracts in existence. When the general procurement law was passed way back in, I believe it was 1980, and the promulgated regulations in 1981, they bifurcated construction claims from non-construction claims. And we've always been dealing with this problem in that there are two different deadlines for construction claims and non-construction claims. Well, we have IT contracts now that instead of 90 days for a contract claim to be submitted, you have to submit it within 30 days. We didn't have IT contracts that were this complicated, this multi-year, large dollars, thousands and thousands of work hours. And to put together a complete claim within 30 days and submit it to the state agency is very, very difficult. And some contractors get confused because they see 90 days in the statute and they think, oh, it's 90 days. Too bad, it's 30, and they get caught by that. The second thing, though, is I want to talk about the big issue that seems to be out there about the elimination of the risk premium for changes in law. And I call it that because you're already paying that. The state is already paying a risk premium incorporated into bids and proposals that are submitted because contractors have to make money. They're not going to submit to you a bill that doesn't include a certain amount of money that would probably that would cover for changes in state law. So they're estimating to the best of their ability today what they might have in costs going out over 3, 5, maybe 10 years. Because you're already paying that risk premium, you're not getting the best prices today that you could get absent giving some clarity to these contractors. So I would urge a favorable report out of this committee.
Thank you. I think that concludes testimony for the entire panel.
Yes.
Do we have other witnesses?
Maria Dowd.
Well, why don't we see if there are questions for this panel first? Are there any questions from members of the committee? Going once, going twice? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Ms. Donovan? Going once? Going twice? I think that concludes the hearing on Senate Bill 213. Now we have Senate Bill 309. Senator Jennings.
Chair, do you want me to bring the panel up?
Sure, by all means.
I'll get up. I'll leave after I testify. Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the record, Senator J.B. Jennings for Senate Bill 309. This bill, it's pretty simple. What it does is it removes the sales tax on gold and silver. Now, let's first talk about what gold and silver is. For this, it is not jewelry. This is strictly investment gold and silver, like bullions, which are valued by their weight and their purity rather than their face value, like an old coin or something that's worth a lot of money just because of its age and its rareness. Bullions are not that way. It's strictly because it's gold at this purity and at this weight, and that's what the market value is. So if you remember last year, legislature in the BRFA, I think it was, decided to remove this tax credit that was there for this, or not tax credit, this tax exemption that we've had. It has been damaging to this industry. Just to let you know, 45 other states do not do this. That includes Pennsylvania, Delaware, Virginia, and West Virginia. So states all around us don't do this. What it has done is the business owners to my left and right who sell this stuff, they have customers going to other states. Think about Maryland, we're a small state, 45 minutes you can get to another state's border. In the legislature, when it passed the BRFA, it actually put an exemption in there for one place that this would not apply, and that was the Maryland Convention Center, because there's a big trade show that takes place there, and they were afraid of losing that business. Well, that's Baltimore City, and that's the convention center. But what about the rest of the state? What about Southern Maryland, Western Maryland, where they have these small little trade shows where people go and buy this stuff? Now, you have to realize these are investors, people that, just like you and I may buy stocks and bonds, some people like to buy actual gold and silver for their investment that they'll put in their safe deposit box or their safe at home so that when the value goes up. But unlike stocks and bonds, that when you buy those, you don't pay a sales tax when you buy a stock. You know, if you're buying Microsoft or Coca-Cola or whatever stock it is, you do not pay a sales tax when you buy that. You pay capital gains when you sell it, if you sell it at a profit. But this investment tool people buy, but they're having to pay 6% up front when they buy it, and then the capital gains when they actually decide to sell it. So it's unfair. You know, if you look at the fiscal note, I don't think it's a big number. Actually, it's a very small number of what the state impact is going to be. But the part that I'd like to point out is that impact to small businesses is significant because we're seeing people walk outside of Maryland to go do these transactions. They're attending trade shows or what do you call, what kind of shows are they?
Coin shows.
Coin shows, I'm sorry, the term. They'll go to coin shows in other states because they're buying their coins there. It's 6% less than what they'd have to pay here in Maryland. And, you know, we don't have a deficit in this budget right now. I want to point that out. So for us, you know, I think this is the prudent thing to do is bring this, I'll repeat what I just said there. You know, this bill is big because we don't have a deficit in the state right now. And the impact to the local economy, I think, would be huge. But in all seriousness, I think it's fair to the industry. Again, these are, you know, retirees that are buying this gold because they feel that it's better than buying stocks. They've seen gold value or silver values go up over the years, and that's what they want to buy. And again, this is just for retirements. So with that, I'd be favorable and ask my panel to go forward.
I like what I hear.
See?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Vice Chairman, and committee members, thank you for your time today. I'm Andy Graber. I'm a disabled vet coin dealer. I promote coin shows and am a founding member of Sound Money Association of Maryland, or SAM for short. Ron Scoats, to my right, is a fellow founding director for SAM. SAM is a nonpartisan organization. We are created under 501c6 with a mission to fight economic injustice. I'm here in support of SB 309, which supports the SAM mission. As a coin dealer, I've lost a majority of my Maryland retail sales. My retail sales are now out of state or online. Even my online sales do not reflect any Maryland purchases. As was pointed out, our surrounding states have zero sales tax at the state level. West Virginia has some local area sales tax that can be applied, but at the state level, there is nothing. My business model for retail has had to shift to online platforms such as Whatnot.
I mentioned that before, mainly because I just can't sell in Maryland. Dealers in neighboring states, I go to a lot of the coin shows over there. I talk to those dealers. I buy from them out of state. Their business is up 5 and 10-fold since last July when we lost that exemption here in Maryland. As a coin show promoter, I've lost a number of dealers because they can't afford to do the sales tax at the shows, because we are dealing with gold and silver, which are high-value bullion, but our margins are very thin. Putting that sales tax on those purchases actually took us into a deficit. Our margins are 3 to 5%. We're now adding a sales tax of 6. We just lost 1%. The other thing that's happened is my coin business, or my coin show, is looking to move out of state because we couldn't do a multi-day show. So I thank you for your time, and if there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Hello, my name is Mark Stover, and I own Crown Jewel Coins and Currencies. I'm a lifetime member of Maryland. I've been here my entire life, and my dream was to have a coin business after I retired, which I do at some level this point, but I didn't get to open up a brick and mortar due to this sales tax. My experience has been I have to travel out of state now to sell coins to coin shows. I first noticed it in September when I went to the Lancaster, Pennsylvania coin show. My wife parked our vehicle after we got set up, and she comes in, she goes, "There's more Maryland tags in the parking lot than Pennsylvania." I said, "Holy cow, I'm going to start asking people what's going on." They went to shop in Pennsylvania to avoid paying a 6% sales tax. I just did a 3-day show up in Delaware, so people traveling, staying overnight, spending money in restaurants, etc. Same scenario. It was the best coin show I ever had was Lancaster, then it was the one over in Newcastle, Delaware, because everybody flocked to the overstate to spend all the money that they won't spend in Maryland. That tells me that we're not gaining revenue, we're losing revenue. We're not selling meals at restaurants, we're not getting room nights, they're not buying gasoline in Maryland, they're going to Delaware. And it's definitely hurting this state. On the tax level, I think you're going to see less taxes. I know the dealers are going to see less retail revenue, like 80% less. And I know the customers feel the inconvenience and disappointment that they either can't purchase or they have to leave the state to do it. I think it's a lose, lose, lose proposition, but if we switch this, it can be a win, win, win. Thank you.
So my name is Brett Stelfox. My family owns the largest coin shop in Maryland. We're right in Laurel. And right when the tax came into effect, we did a comparison like of 3 months, and basically our showroom sales were down 72% from the previous year. So it's been a real struggle for us to try to come up with different ways to make it work, and we are, but this bill would really help us out, and we support a lot of the local shops in the area too, and everybody's feeling the pain, and our customers are furious. They're asking, like, what can we do? Who can we talk to try to fix this? Because they're driving out of state to be able to make these purchases. So we're friends with all the neighboring states, basically all the coin shops. Everybody talks to each other. And just like they were saying, I mean, the sales are through the roof along all the borders. So that's where all the customers are going. We've had a number of customers that have just said bye to us, which is like kind of heartbreaking. So yeah, we'd appreciate if you guys support us here. Thanks a lot.
Support. Okay, I think that's the panel. They're here for moral support.
Oh, okay. JP Quartet?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi there, Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, and the rest of the members of the Senate Budget and Taxation Committee. Thank you very much for the opportunity to testify before you today. My name is JP Cortez, and I'm the Executive Director of the Sound Money Defense League. We've worked on policies pertaining to gold and silver at the state and federal level since 2014, including working to enact this exact sales tax exemption on purchases of precious metals in more than a dozen states across the country. I actually traveled to Annapolis back in 2020 to urge lawmakers not to eliminate the longstanding exemption on purchases of gold and silver, which they were considering doing back then. This new, that would-be tax was quickly rejected, and Delegate Moon, when he introduced the bill, said as much, that he heard a massive public backlash from people in the state on this exemption. The taxing of gold and silver at this point has become an unusual practice. Like one of the panel members said earlier, the vast majority of states have eliminated this tax. The most recent ones to do so are New Jersey, Connecticut, and Wisconsin. So it's important to realize that this is not a partisan issue. Inflation harms everyone equally, and gold and silver are active hedges against inflation. Another couple of points are that, like was said earlier, there is no other asset held for resale that requires a sales tax here in Maryland. When you buy, you can open an app on your phone or go online to your brokerage account and you can buy a stock of any sort and you won't pay any sales tax. But if you buy gold and silver, the only form of money mentioned in the U.S. Constitution, you would pay a sales tax. And this is harmful, of course, to the most small time of savers. These are people buying small amounts of gold and silver at a time on a weekly or a biweekly basis, trying to hedge against this inflation that they're seeing, and they choose to do that in gold instead of the more traditional investments, but there still are investments held for resale. Another quick point is on the fiscal note. The idea that Maryland will bring in millions from imposing this tax is simply not the case. In Tennessee, when we exempted the sales tax on purchases of precious metals there, a state with a larger population than Maryland, the estimated fiscal note was only $360,000 a year that the state expected to bring in. So Maryland will not be making a bunch off of this exemption. So I encourage the committee to list a favorable report on Senate Bill 309, and I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Benjamin Schaefer.
Thank you. My name is Benjamin Schaefer. I'm the Director of Operations for Citizens for Sound Money. We're an advocacy organization that advocates for the use of sound money, meaning gold and silver, as well as protecting the rights of Americans to use gold and silver. I also am connected with the Sound Money Trade Association and the Sound Money Association of Maryland. We represent a broad swath of the industry in attempting to make sure that our business interests are protected. Now, I want to give you a little bit of a simpler request as to why we would like to see this passed favorably out of this committee and passed in Maryland. It's a matter of economic justice. Right now, the exemption is unfairly and unbalanced only to favor one venue in Baltimore, of course, and it really also highly disfavors all precious metals transactions in the state of Maryland, considering you're surrounded by states that do not have any of these special taxes. Now, I've read the fiscal note, and my concern, of course, is that it's saying that Maryland might bring in less sales tax revenue if this exemption is extended in a fair and economic justice is extended to us as well as other industries that are like us. I think that has dramatically overstated the amount of revenue available to Maryland through this tax. I think it's very important to realize that the existence of this special tax that doesn't exist against any other financial services industry in Maryland is not likely to bring in that much revenue in the future because you are currently exporting all of your transactions out of the state of Maryland into your neighboring states. And that's what's hurting your local businesses there in Maryland. So please support this repeal.
Thank you. Questions from any members of the committee? Thank you all very much. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Thank you for this presentation. While we do all agree that we don't have a budget deficit, we do have a revenue shortfall. So is there any way that you can do a quantifiable business case that would suggest that by the retention of this business, that there are other indirect revenues that would compensate for this exemption and make it net neutral.
I'll start with that. The gentleman here that mentioned he had a coin show. He's taken out of state. Let's say he stays here. Let's go to a town, I don't know, let's say Frederick. And he puts on a coin show. You're going to have people driving from all over the state to attend it. They're going to be buying gas tax, fuel to drive there, so they're paying their gas tax. Most will probably say, hey, it's too far from home. I live on the Eastern Shore, so I'm going to get a hotel. So you'll stay in a hotel room. So we're going to get our hotel tax from that. They're going to go to dinner at the local restaurants. Additionally, the profit that gentleman's making, or they make in their businesses, they're paying, income tax for the business. They're paying their employees. So it is by increasing business revenue, you're offsetting the little bit of money you're making from somebody buying, $100 worth of gold to make $6. Think of what those people spent at the restaurants, at the hotels, driving there, and all that other. And I'll let
Well, I know that we have hundreds of people that drive from other states to pick up their product because they don't like to have it in the mail, a lot of high value stuff like that. They're not able to do that anymore because if they pick up in Maryland, they have to pay sales tax. So everything gets shipped out. So all these people that are coming in, staying at hotels, most of them are making it a vacation. They're exploring the state. They're going to DC. They're going everywhere. So there's a lot of lost revenue there, I think. So.
Thank you.
I can add something to that. I was planning on opening up a coin shop and having 2 employees, which I could not do. And before this happened, I think we were fortunate enough because of our professionalism. We actually had people coming from Delaware spending their money with us because of our knowledge, competitive pricing, and built relationships. We've lost those people. Now they're shopping there. And I'll tell you another thing, the Delaware vendors have told me it was the best job program they could have gotten because they're hiring more people because of all the additional revenues that are coming their way.
Thank you.
I'd like to add on that too is back in last year when the exemption was taken away, I think there were maybe inadvertently the thought was, okay, we're going to start getting a sales tax on items $1,000 or more. I don't think the state has realized that because all of those high dollar purchases went out of state. So that the sales tax that was hopefully coming in went across the borders, which ultimately hurt us at the business level because now we don't have the customers. The coin show that I was doing, or that I do, I decided to stay in for one more year through the year. I do it over at the fairgrounds 5 times a year. We're looking to make that multi-day. And I was going to partner with Mr. Stover so that we could do that for a 3-day show. We can't afford to do that now because the vendors won't come to the show because of the sales tax. So that's all the hotel. When you talk about 200 tables for a coin show, that's probably on the order of 50 to 60 vendors. Of those, is probably about 50% out of state. And they come in. So there's hotel revenue, sort of a back of the napkin number for you, ma'am. So there is a lot of sales tax directly associated with us and the ancillary that's being lost. Thank you.
Did you have a comment, Mr. Cortez?
I just want to add one thing. The fiscal note states 2.5 million in 27. Now, given that 80% of the sales are down, plus you include the ancillary, there's really going to be probably a net increase of a few dollars, but not a deficit.
Did you have something you wanted to add, Mr. Cortez?
Yes, sir. I also just want to make a point that there's plenty of anecdotal evidence, obviously, about how this hurts in-state businesses, but this study has also been done. There's a CPA that represents a major national coin bullion association nationwide who has done this study. It was a Michigan study that showed that by any amount that was increased by imposing a sales tax on precious metal was offset by the amount decreased, by the amount lost in any sort of secondary effects, tourism dollars, any of that comes into with dealers, with coin shows, with conventions, and all of those related events.
Okay. Thank you all very much. We're going to, just FYI, that 2.5, we're going to explore that a little deeper and talk with the comptroller about that and see what we can learn more about it. So thank you all. Appreciate you being here. Thank you. 232 and 235.
Bill 232, state procurement preference for historic underutilized businesses and hub zones. This bill would align with procurement with the federal standards established by the United States Small Business Administration in accordance with the federal procurement program. Central to the bill, the purpose of establishing a hub zone within the state defines as historic underutilized businesses and their zones. The goal is to bring more support and economic landscape for businesses that traditionally face barriers to win state contracts, including minority-owned, women-owned, and other underappreciated businesses. Giving businesses a meaningful opportunity to compete with support local entrepreneurship creates jobs, gives dollars back to the state and invests in the state and in their community. I've presented this bill more than once, and I finally don't have anybody opposing it. So I'd say that's a miracle. But the good thing is that the benefit is, I think more than anything, our state is looking for economic development and growth, and this is a benefit for businesses that are underutilized and businesses that are historically proven that they need help and they need more development. And so this is just a golden opportunity for those businesses, and I hope and pray that I can get a favorable report this year finally. Thank you, sir. Yes, sir. For the record again, Senator John R. Sally. Senate Bill 235. This is a local Baltimore County property tax credits for public safety officers and public school system employees. Public system officers and public system school employees, that is, are essential to the well-being and safety of Baltimore County families. First responders and teachers are on the front line every day, and they're under significant stress constantly, all the time. To establish a property tax credit for their homes, recognize that their services are significant and the financial burden they face all the time with their families. A property tax credit would help Maryland recruit and retain public safety officers and educators, making home ownership more affordable. This local bill and this local bill will just be with Baltimore County. I am working on an amendment as we speak. That amendment would only be for Baltimore County residents at the time. I haven't had the opportunity to present it to my delegation, but I'm hoping when I get the new amendment for the this Baltimore County bill, that I know it will reduce the fiscal note, which I know is outstanding right now. But I'm hoping that we can work on this and to help out our teachers and help out our public officers. And if you have any questions, that's why I'm here.
Look forward to that information. That